floor with an expert panel over the next 90 minutes. I want to thank you for joining us, but before I introduce the panel, some housekeeping announcements. This dialogue is being streamed live on the ECCB Connects Facebook page. And of course, the Zoom session is open for those who wish. We simply ask that you keep your microphones muted throughout to ensure the quality of the broadcast. Attendees in the Zoom room are invited to submit their comments in the chat box and their questions in the Q&A box. One of my colleagues is monitoring our Facebook page and will pull questions from our Facebook page and forward to me so that we can pose them to our panel. If for whatever reason you are disconnected during this dialogue, we simply ask you to kindly reconnect using the link that has been provided. The recording of this dialogue will be on our ECCB Connects Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube channel, also called ECCB Connects. Now, we will open up the audience poll from now to allow early voting. And if for whatever reason you need to leave before the dialogue ends, you would have an opportunity to cast your vote, to have your voices heard in this particular dialogue. How do you do that? Well, for those of you who are regulars now, you know we use something called Mentimeter. And by the way, it's a free app, so you can always download it. You can use it for dialogue, and you can use it for your church, school, community, whatever. It's a great tool to use, especially in this time. So you go to www.menti.com, and the code today is 154-13416. I repeat, the code today is 154-13416. So you can go in even now and you can answer. There are 3 questions in our poll today. So check it out as we go. This dialogue is also being carried live on partner radio stations throughout our currency union. In Anguilla, Radio Anguilla, Cool FM Radio, and Class FM Radio. In Antigua and Barbuda, Nice FM and ABS Radio. In the Commonwealth of Dominica, Q95, Carry FM, DBS Radio at 7 p.m. this evening. In Grenada, We FM, Classic FM, and Sister Isles Radio in Carriacou. In Montserrat, there's Radio Montserrat ZJB. In St. Christopher and Nevis, Win FM, Vaughan Radio, which is on Nevis, Freedom FM, and ZIZ Television will broadcast at 1:30 p.m. today. In St. Lucia, Rhythm FM and W Vent. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, NBC Radio, Nice Radio, We FM Radio. And again, I want to thank all of our broadcast partners for continuing this collaboration with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. Those then are housekeeping announcements, and I would now love to introduce our panel. We have 3 expert panelists today, and I'm delighted that they have given their time to share with us today. First up is Dr. Sylvia Donat. Dr. Donat is a lead private sector specialist in the Competitiveness, Technology, and Innovation Division at the Inter-American Development Bank. But I think she's better known as the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean. She has been the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean since 2012. And for many people in our business community, Compete Caribbean is now a household name. Dr. Donat is a researcher in small business, and she holds a PhD in Economic Development and Regional Planning from MIT. Dr. Donat, welcome.
Thank you so much, Governor Antoine. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next up is Ms. Shadell Nayak Compton. Shadell, as I would probably refer to her on the panel, is the owner and managing director of Belmont Estate, a fully functional historic plantation and premier agritourism attraction in Grenada. She is a visionary that transformed Belmont Estate from a traditional farm to a unique business model, merging heritage, commerce, organic agriculture, tourism, food manufacturing, environmental, and community responsibility into a single viable enterprise. Shadell is actually an attorney by profession, but found the need to get into business. And of course, we are happy that she did. She wears many hats, but one of her hats at the moment is that she is the deputy chair of the Grenada Tourism Authority. I have to confess, and I have to make full disclosure, that Belmont Estate is one of my favorite spots in Grenada. And having not been for the last 18 months, I very much miss that opportunity. Hopefully that will come not too long from now. Shadell, morning and welcome.
Good morning, Governor, and thank you very much for having me on this morning. I'm happy to be here to represent Grenada and Belmont Estate, and happy to know that Belmont Estate remains close to your heart. We look forward to welcoming you back sometime soon. And good morning to my co-panelists and to all our participants and to the listening audience.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shadell. Next up we have, and I'm very pleased that we have a complete panel, gender balance is always important, Mr. Ashton Ferron, who hails from Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Ferron is the CEO and co-founder of the technical research and consultancy firm MCAT Innovations, Inc., a firm focused on enhancing business to consumer experiences through the use of technology. He is a so-called technopreneur, a marriage between technology and entrepreneurship. Mr. Ferron has led several applications, including ticketing, mobile ticketing, events management, Fruby, a fintech startup aimed at helping small businesses to go online. He's also an adjunct instructor at the UWI Open Campus, among other things. He holds a master's in digital solutions and a bachelor's in computer networking. Mr. Ferron, it's a real pleasure to have you on board. Welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with such an esteemed panel. Thank you for having me.
Great. Very, very good. And so what you will see, colleagues, guests, visitors, friends, is that we have people on this panel who actually run businesses and who support businesses. And I think we're very fortunate to have them on board today. And so that is the introduction of our panel. For those of you who are new or just a refresher, we do these dialogues in 3 segments. The first is a segment where I pose some questions to the panel, moderator to the panel. Second, we check in on our audience poll to see where we're at and how we're doing. And then thirdly, we have our Q&A, where we actually go to the questions and we try and field as many questions as possible. So again, thanks for joining us today. This is ECCB Digital Dialogues. Our focus today, pandemic and small businesses. I'm Timothy Antwine, Governor of the ECCB. Now to our questions. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Dunnett, of the Compete Caribbean. You have done extensive research on the impact of pandemic on SMEs. In fact, I'm advised that you've done 2 surveys on this impact. And I'd like you to share some of the key findings of these surveys. Please.
Thank you. I'd be very, very glad to do so. So just so that I can tell people watching us from Compete Caribbean, to give a little bit of background, is a program that is financed by 4 donors, which are the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Kingdom's Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Government of Canada. And this program is a program that is focused on providing technical assistance to support the private sector in the Caribbean. When last year, we were all hit by this unexpected event of the pandemic, we decided to perform a survey twice. One early in the pandemic in April 2020, and one much later in the pandemic, December 2020. these surveys that I'm talking about are like voluntary surveys that we disseminated online through Facebook, through our communications channels, and so on. And those are indicative surveys. They're not necessarily representative of an economy per se, such as another survey that we also did, and that the data became available just last week, just that, we're still examining it. And I can tell you about that later. What I want to tell you is about the two surveys we conducted last year, where we were trying to capture what was the impact of the pandemic on the region's private sector. And we conducted the survey in 13 countries, the 6 Eastern Caribbean countries that we cover, plus it would be CARICOM minus Haiti. Those are the 13 countries that we covered. And we had, I'm going to talk about the December survey because that's the most recent. We had 196 businesses responding throughout these 13 countries, many of them in the Eastern Caribbean. And we have, what we consider to be a well represented sample in terms of economic sectors, because most of the businesses were in service, and then, there was a large part in agriculture and agro-processing, and then we had, a smaller part in manufacturing. So what was the impact? What did we see to be the impact of COVID in December of last year? So we, 80.6% of the businesses in December reported to have had a negative impact by COVID. That is a little smaller than the negative impact reported in April, which was like 85%, but it's still very sizable. And 11.7% of the businesses said that it had actually had a positive impact, which is also interesting, no? That even though it's a minority of firms, there are some firms where COVID had a positive impact. 60.7% of the businesses said that the pandemic, and especially the lockdowns, reduced demand for their products, while 18% had an increased demand for their products. What about production? So nearly 50% of the businesses that responded had a reduction in production last year. 11.7% had an increase in production. What about exports? So most of the firms that responded to the survey did not export. So nearly 60% do not export. But of that remaining 40% that did export, 2/3 of them, they experienced a reduced demand for their export products. What about sourcing inputs? So 32% of the firms experienced a price increase in terms of their inputs that they imported, and nearly 20% an interruption of their supply chains. What about accessing national raw materials? So 30.6% of the firms had difficulties accessing even national raw materials during the lockdown and during the COVID year. What about international raw materials? Again, nearly a third of the firms had difficulties accessing international raw materials to produce. Most of the businesses, let's say nearly half of the businesses did not terminate any contracts of their employees due to COVID, which I think is very positive. But the other half had to terminate, between 0 and 50% or more than 50% of their employees. In fact, 16.3% of the businesses terminated more than half of their workforce, which is, of course, very worrisome. In terms of teleworking, what we could see in the region, and this is perhaps due to the strong presence of the tourism and services sector, is that nearly 60% of the businesses had no employees teleworking, okay? And then the other 40% had between, 10% or more than half of the employees teleworking. I think the most interesting aspect, however, of this survey comes down to what type of support were businesses able to get during this period. So 64.3% of the firms actually did not apply for assistance to help their businesses cope. And 88.8% of the businesses, and nearly 90%, did not receive any support. It may be that they didn't apply for it to help keep employees in their businesses after the end of the lockdown due to COVID. So by December, nearly 40% of the firms said that their business had not yet recovered from the crisis, and 38.27% that their sector had not recovered from the crisis. So anyhow, this is what I wanted to share with you. And I think that Governor Antoine, like we were talking about the impact of COVID on OECD, which I'm sure that in many respects, maybe the magnitudes are different because of the composition of businesses in the Caribbean. But I think definitely, with the Caribbean region situation of high debt levels before COVID and so on, certainly maybe the resources to support businesses were more difficult to come about during the COVID situation.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Donert. So there we have it, very authoritative findings on the impact on the small business, the business community. It's not just small. So thanks for that perspective. So I'd now like to go to our business owners, and I'll start with you, Ms. Compton. Shadel, how have you responded how have you adjusted your business model to this very disruptive period? Just unmute before you begin. Right.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about that, Governor. Yes, thank you again. So there has been a lot of adjustment and strategizing during this time, but just permit me to give a little bit of an overview of our business for context. So as you know, the business is called Belmont Estate, and it's located in the rural north of Grenada. And we are primarily an organic farm, but we have diversified into agritourism and cottage style and craft food manufacturing. So on the farming side, we farm mostly cocoa, nutmeg, spices, fruits and vegetables. On the tourism side, our services and products include various tours of the facilities and various experiences. We have an open style family restaurant serving delectable local cuisine. We offer educational and cultural activities and special events like weddings and so on. And on the manufacturing side, which we started only in recent years, we manufacture kosher and organic certified dark, white, and milk chocolates and a line of cocoa products. We also do a line of goat cheeses, spices, teas, pickles, condiments, and they're all single estate products made from organic produce that we grow right on the estate. So as of 2019, before the pandemic, on the revenue side, the chocolate manufacturing accounted for 14% of our revenue, the farm 30%, and tourism 56%. So we are heavily tourism based. And not only our core tourism activities like the restaurant and tours, but also our farm and manufacturing products our core market is tourism, and we have seen that how significantly our sales were affected even in those areas post-COVID. So I can really identify with the findings of Dr. Doherty in our business. So first, we were forced to close the tourism activities in our business for 6 months post-COVID. And we reopened thereafter. Our restaurant is operating only 1 day a week now because our visitor arrivals to Grenada is still so low. Of course, sales plummeted in all departments, And when compared to 2019, we had a decrease of 70% in revenue in our tourism department, 30% in our farm department, and 60% in our manufacturing, like chocolate and the rest. Regarding our human resources, regrettably, we had to release some of our staff, especially those working in the tourism department, because we just did not have the resources or the business operations to continue to employ them. We did receive some stimulus assistance here in Grenada for all businesses that are tourism related. The government offered 40% of salary for a period of 3 months. There was also a farm labor support, and we got that assistance for 3 months for 24 persons, and that was a great help for us on the farm. And of course, there was support through the NIS of a $350 flat fee for anyone who was unemployed for the period of 6 months. So with the loss of labor, it really affected our productivity and our efficiency, and it meant that with the shortage of staff, we had to retrain staff so that our staff can become multi-skilled and adaptable. We also had to look at using virtual employees to help us on certain projects and to get some of our work done, and we still use services of virtual employees even at this time. Of course, the loss of revenue affected our cash flow, and we had to take up the bank's offer for the loan deferral program. And Governor, we have to say thank you to you for your initiative on this, because the banks here in Grenada have really rolled out a very reasonable deferral program and have been working with us as business owners here, especially those in the tourism sector, but I think for all businesses, because most businesses have been affected by this. And I must say that fortunately, our bankers have been very understanding and very agreeable, and they've been working with us to navigate through this process. On the positive side, I would say that the pandemic has forced us to become more creative and innovative and to focus on resilience as part of our business strategy for the future. How can we as companies develop the ability to withstand these unpredictable threats and changes, and how to emerge stronger? And that's a challenge for us.
Right. Thank you very much, Shadel. I appreciate your sharing with that level of granularity on what you are experiencing, because I think many businesses can relate to what you just said. So thank you very much for that, and for your resilience. Happy to hear the restaurant is still open at least once a week. Thanks again. Ashton, what say you? How have you been responding to this very disruptive period?
Good morning again, Governor Antoine, and good morning to my fellow panelists, and good morning to those listening on the various platforms, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'll start off by answering the question by saying that if you know Caribbean people, you know we love to fet, all right? And this is an industry that in 2014 was worth an estimated $18 million in Antigua and Barbuda alone. What our company is really known for is the ticketing events app, which is the first event management platform developed in the Caribbean region. And our premise was very simple. Purchase tickets to all your favorite events and have it delivered to your phone or digital device instantly. No waiting in lines, just get into your fet and have a great time. And while you're having a good time, you could also feel good that you were also being good to the environment, right? You were doing away with paper tickets. Now, of course, back when we started, what people weren't used to was paying for things online. And if an event host wanted to host an event with online tickets, they didn't have many options. There was PayPal or Eventbrite, but those companies not only put a premium rate on our high-risk region, they would also make you wait 30 days before you could get your money for your ticket sales.
Right.
So what we did was ensure that our platform would process transactions locally and be able and be available to those event hosts as needed. And so what we managed to do over the course of the last 5 years was sort of change the culture of event goers and online sales in general, right? So in effect, we were sort of somewhat preparing them for COVID, all right? When COVID hit, of course, events and entertainment was one of the first industries to be shut down completely. You know, you can't have large crowds gathering. And so we've been hit really hard. And we had to, close our physical offices to minimize costs. And we've been operating on a skeleton budget for well over a year now. There have been no fets or entertainment events, at least in Antigua and Barbuda, since March of last year. And while the Promoters Association in Antigua has agreed now, just relatively recently, within the last couple of weeks, while they've agreed with our government to a sort of phased restart of the industry, potentially in July of this year, we're only talking about events with a maximum capacity of 300 persons that have to be fully vaccinated. Now, the event industry is one of those industries where everybody can eat a food, right? And you have the barman, the lightsman, the stage man, the decorators, the makeup artists. This is what really keeps the economy going. And even the clothing stores, the nail techs and hairdressers, because when we as Caribbean people getting ready to fete, everybody is eating a food, right? But with these limited numbers that we're proposing to reopen with, everybody will start to be eating crackers and cheese, right? And so I started off by saying that in 2014, the events industry was worth an estimated $80 million EC, right? In 2015, when ticketing started selling digital tickets to events, we averaged maybe a modest 20 or 25 tickets per event as we just started. In 2019, just before COVID, we were selling thousands of tickets per event. And in early 2020, we had just started expanding to other islands in the region. And so in 2021 and over the course of the pandemic, I don't think I need to tell you what sort of impact that has had for us at this stage. In terms of the adjustments that we've made, besides starting my own backyard garden, I would have mentioned earlier that our goal as a service provider in the events and entertainment industry was to ensure that our partners would be able to process transactions online without having to pay an external service provider such as PayPal these exorbitant rates and having to wait sometimes as long as 30 days to receive funds.
Yes.
Cash flow, as you can imagine, for these businesses is very important. And so the payment platform that we built and perfected with ticketing over the years put us sort of in a perfect position when COVID started. What we quickly realized was that micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises just like us, in the hardest parts of the crisis, they still needed a way to continue to do business with all the social distancing protocols still in place. So even some big businesses were not equipped with the technical expertise to take advantage of e-commerce in these times. So of course, I believe if you ask any freight forwarder business how they were doing, they would tell you they're doing great because everyone's buying everything on Amazon. Don't need to speak about how well Amazon is doing.
Yes.
Who wants to head into town wearing a mask, sanitizing your hands at every store you enter, the alcohol making your hands dry, and you probably still end up not getting what you want? So we took the opportunity to not only change our business model, but we created an entirely new product. And that's where we decided to launch Fruby, which is a payment platform that makes doing business online across the OECS easy. And so without having any technical expertise, anyone can set up a website, begin selling their products and services in minutes. And even I can now sell some of my produce from my own backyard garden.
Well, that's a wonderful story, that last one in particular, because I've always been a strong advocate for farmers and fishers to be able to do those things. I give the example all the time. A fisher should be able to catch and sell before he lands using his app. Exactly. By uploading, so by the time he gets to shore, that business is already done. And that's a great example. And I thank you for that, Ashton, because I think speaking as a businessman, as a young man in our region, I think what you said, again, resonated with many. You are right. Caribbean people love to fet, and clearly it's having an impact on our mental health. Those of us who cannot fet at this time. So there are health issues, among other things. So I'm glad to hear what you're doing, and I want to wish you success as well as you move forward there. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. So there we had it. We've heard so far what is the impact on our businesses. Dr. Donald gave us that. We then heard from two business owners who are actually living it. This is their lived reality. How is they being impacted? How they've been responding? And I think we now have set this up really, really well. So let me go back to you, Dr. Donald, and ask you, the reality is that we had some pre-existing conditions in the business climate. It's not all stellar. It's not all to blame on the pandemic. We do have issues in our business environment. And so perhaps you could comment now on what you see as we start to think about how we move forward in this environment. What are the things that we need to be tackling in our business climate in this period and going forward to give our small businesses a real fighting chance to survive and thrive?
Thank you so much, Governor Antoine. And I was so pleased also to hear the interventions from our fellow panelists, because it just recalls a lot of how we see, the situation of businesses in the Caribbean, tourism, agritourism, and also this potential for technology to really revolutionize the way that we've been doing business, right? So as you know, Compete Caribbean, aside from supporting groups of businesses or innovative firms, also works with governments across the region to improve the business climate. No? And we've been doing that work since the start of the first Compete Caribbean program. And we generally guide ourselves by the doing business indicators, right? Which, as we know, for the Caribbean, there's a lot to improve still in some areas more than others. And really the area that has most to improve is the area of access to finance, right? I think this is, even before the pandemic, it was a big constraint for Caribbean businesses. I think that measures that the ECCB is taking, such as the credit guarantee mechanism, also the credit bureau is going to significantly enhance this. And I also really want to credit you for your digital currency, because I think that digital currency will make, will bring a lot of people within the financial sector. It will make applications such as Fluby, which are very direly needed, even easier to use. Right. And I do think that during the pandemic, what we have seen, not all over the world and also in the Caribbean, is the importance of e-commerce, and on the side of the public sector, the importance of digitalizing public services in order to make it easier in both citizen services, but also services for businesses, right? At Compete Caribbean, we're supporting 4 countries in the Eastern Caribbean to improve their business registration, reduce the time that it takes to register a business, which is very long in some countries. And we had started those projects before the pandemic. And, the governments were interested in, and we had made some progress. But we saw such a keen interest when the pandemic hit that those projects have moved much, much faster.
Good.
Same for, like, for example, in Dominica, digitalization of like customs operations, which they had done just before the pandemic. And we had helped train customs officer on the new procedures. And that was so important because it meant that during the pandemic, you know, the issues about the supply chain were not as cut as they would have been otherwise.
Right.
St. Lucia digitalized its tax collection, and you know that was very important during the pandemic. But I also want to talk about something else, which is, you know, now that businesses really want to go digital, we do work with a lot of business support organizations in the Eastern Caribbean in how can you support technology adoption and digital technology adoption by businesses in the Caribbean. So this issue about e-commerce, as simple as putting on a website, how do you support online booking? How do you support online payment? I think there's a big road still. It's not clear who the technology providers can be for the Caribbean. I was very interested to hear about Ashton Theron's experience, and you know, want to touch base with him afterwards. But we see a very big demand by businesses and start of a response in terms of businesses like Mr. Theron's coming into the space and making it a lot easier. Yeah, so we see a big opportunity despite the challenges of the pandemic of kind of like modernizing businesses in this sense. But I think it will require a lot of support beyond, you know, the market.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sylvia. You know, very often when we talk about the business climate in this region, there's a narrative about accommodating foreign investors. And yes, it is true, foreign investors play a key role in our economies. There's no question about that. In fact, foreign investment all over the world, even the large countries, advanced economies, foreign investors play an important role. But I do want to underscore that when we speak about the business climate, first and foremost, certainly in my estimation, in my thinking, I'm talking about our small businesses. I'm talking about the homegrown businesses that will not get up and leave. You know, the indigenous, they are going to be here for the long haul in sunny weather and in very bad weather, such as we have now. So when we speak about the doing business environment and we speak about the doing business report, too often the narrative is about outside and foreign. And I am concerned about small businesses because small businesses will tell you it is often very difficult as well to do business, notwithstanding the fact they're from here. It's just the hoops to go through, even engaging governments, which is why the effort by our governments now to put things online, make it easier. I've always said it has nothing to do with who you know or it ought not to, and getting a favor. Certain services should be available, period, without any difficulty. And the move by our governments now to do that, I think, would help our small businesses a lot. The other comment that I wanted to make, Ashton, is what you're doing underscores something I repeat all the time. As we build out the digital economy, it is really important that our people, our small businesses, are not mere consumers in this digital economy, but producers. If we build out a digital economy simply to buy on Amazon, we're wasting our time. We're not advancing or moving the needle. If we're doing it so that we can sell services, including your little backyard garden, for example, Shadell can do that with the tourists in Germany or whoever who've come and who want additional products, chocolate and spices and what have you, we get in somewhere. Because these niches are very important for our economies. We're small, but those external niches, those export markets can make a huge difference for our economies. So I just want to underscore that. And the third thing I'd say is, and Dr. Donut, you teed it up nicely, just a little bit on what ECCB is doing, because we're not merely facilitating this dialogue, but we are in the trenches trying to help make a difference in the business environment. So you mentioned the partial credit guarantee scheme. October last year, we launched that. which provides a 75% guarantee for small, medium enterprises loans up to $300,000. So a bank or credit union, which is a participating institution, can make a loan and get a guarantee, a loan of $300,000 up to 75% through the Eastern Caribbean Credit Partial Credit Guarantee Scheme. And I'm sure the CEO will be happy to work with other financial institutions which are coming on board. And I got a report very recently, and more financial institutions are coming on board, including some of our development banks. But we want them to move a little faster to be able to make that available to our small businesses. Secondly, of course, you mentioned Dcash, which we rolled out on March 31. And we started in Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. We are now working to launch next month in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are not running from, we run into. We want to expedite to help them as they recover from the volcano. And then, of course, we're going to be going to Dominica, Anguilla, and Montserrat. We're also working with our partners, OECS Commission, ECTEL, CARICOM Impacts, and of course the World Bank, on a massive project called the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. It's a $94 million project aimed at internet connectivity, digital skills and jobs, entrepreneurship, digital finance, cybersecurity, data protection. Those are some of the things that we're covering. That project is now live and implementation has begun. And you're going to hear more and more about that project over the next few months, and for the next 3-4 years, we want to make a big impact with that. And then you did mention, Dr. Donald, the credit bureau or credit registry. And again, what is the biggest challenge of small businesses? Access to finance. Well, one of the biggest. And we want to make that a lot easier by ensuring that there's a credit bureau that allows essentially responsible lending and responsible borrowing. A lot of financial institutions would do more to extend finance or credit if they had a framework, an infrastructure, such as the credit bureau to assist them. That exists in advanced economies all over the world. Some of our larger CARICOM countries, we want to bring it to the OECS ECCU soon. And the last thing I'd mention is that we are working, ECCB, with the World Bank on a renewable energy facility. I don't want to say too much on that, but ultimately we want to help bring down the cost of electricity in our region, which is a major issue for small businesses. After labor, it's the electricity cost, typically. And so just to mention, these are some of the things that your central bank is working on for you. So now let me get back to our panel, having just given you a flavor. And I did that because I want you to understand that we're not just in the talk mode, we're actually doing, and we're looking to support our small businesses in very practical ways here at the ECCB. Back to our panelists for our final question before we go to the poll. How can we stimulate entrepreneurship, particularly among our youth? How can we create productive, competitive, and resilient businesses now and going forward? And perhaps I could start with you, Shadell, then Ashton, and then Sylvia. Shadell, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Governor. And I must say, thank you for all that you have been doing. Yeah, we know that you are a man of action and you've been really trying with the various initiatives to help small businesses. Really excited to hear about the working on the cost of electricity. It's a major concern for us here in Grenada, and I'm sure in most jurisdictions as well. So that comes with great welcome, as well as the Dcash and the partial credit guarantee, which I know would make a lot of difference for small businesses at this time. So in terms of stimulating entrepreneurship now, I think that in each pandemic or in each crisis, there is an opportunity that lies for us to re-strategize, to seize the moment. And I think COVID has done that for us. We have made the decision to shift our focus from tourism to local, to our local markets, and also to the online and export markets. So I was very excited and I could really identify with what Mr. Farron is doing, because shifting to the digital space means having to work with shipping and fulfillment and payment platforms. And in the Caribbean, when you're a Caribbean company doing business in the US or online, we really need to have access to payment platforms that are more affordable and accessible than PayPal.
Yes.
So thanks for what you're doing, Mr. Farron, and I hope that it will be available for the wider Caribbean, and I hope to see you involved in agri-tech as well, because your expertise certainly is needed in that area. But I think that it is a time that is pregnant with opportunity for young people who are so innovative and have so many ideas. We have to teach our youth to become entrepreneurs by just offering them the support from the time they are in primary school and in high school, so that they grow with the entrepreneurship mindset. So by the time they're out of school, they are already thinking about some area that they would like to develop a business in. As Dr. Dorhut said, we do need to improve our access to the business formation and business development in our jurisdictions. Here in Grenada, it doesn't take so much time to incorporate or to register a company, but the system needs to be digitalized so it's more accessible to entrepreneurs. So you should be equipped to do web-based businesses, to be able to set up their marketing and to be able to enter that online space. I mean, these are very important components of model businesses, and this should be taught in schools so that our young people can become better entrepreneurs. We have already identified the access to finance issue, and there has to be affordable and flexible options for our young persons. As a young entrepreneur, having access to security might be difficult. So what other financing opportunities could there be outside of the traditional loans? I mean, there are grants and angel financing and equity partners. Getting our young people access to that information as to how to find the other financing opportunities is important. Okay, also governments need to enhance and simplify the regulatory framework for businesses and to make the online process affordable to our youth. Youth also need to be able to utilize their creativity towards entrepreneurship platforms via platforms like Shark Tank and other similar channels. It's vital that we create networks that will support youth and their businesses, from family and friends network to support groups of professionals and experts who can be there to guide them along their journey. Another opportunity for youth is to establish businesses to market their virtual services and skills and to sell products. I mean, as I mentioned, my company is using virtual, assistants and virtual experts online, and that's available to anyone, anywhere. Our young people need to be aware that there are platforms where they can sell their services and gain clients worldwide. They can develop expertise in certain high demand areas so that they can become consultants. They can teach classes online and develop niche products. As an agriculture-based company that understands the need for food security and the need to expand our produce and processed food production, I believe that we should present food production and agribusiness and agri-tech as viable and profitable business options for our youth. We can do this by offering training and support through grants and access to markets, business formation and business development, access to land. For instance, in Grenada, the government has a land bank program where young people can get access to land for farming. Since our young people are so adept in technology, we should educate them in agricultural technologies. The future of agriculture really involves sophisticated equipment such as robotics, temperature and moisture sensors, aerial imagery, GPS technology, and precision agriculture. Agriculture is just not, hard work as we knew it before. It's much more complex now. These will widen the perspective of the youth regarding the opportunities in the industry. It would also demystify the notion that agriculture is, really hard labor. By integrating innovative agricultural technologies, the younger generation can be more interested in the science and the art and the advancements of food technology and become more forward-thinking entrepreneurs. In the coming decade, I think all companies, startup or existing companies, have to become more resilient to be able to adapt, withstand these unpredictable changes and to emerge even stronger. So whatever small businesses we build in the future, whatever businesses we help our young people to build, we have to consider the risk of small island developing states, and further the risk of international threats as we have seen now with this pandemic. Yes. I believe that this pandemic has really poised us to prepare for the worst case scenarios. Yes. And to help us to develop the business knowledge and resilience for our business planning. Yes. So there are some areas that we need to become resilient in as businesses: our financials, our operations, the technology. We see how critically important technology is now, organizational resilience or reputational resilience, and building out just a resilient business model. It means that as business owners, we must develop a resilient strategy to ensure sustainability for our companies for the long term.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shadel. Resilience, resilience, resilience. The rainy day comes, the storms come, the business cycle ebbs and flows, goes up and goes down. We want to be resilient, and thank you for that message. Ashton, what say you?
Thank you, Governor. So I believe that if any business is going to be competitive and resilient, particularly post-pandemic, they must be digital first, or digitally enabled, if you rather. Mm-hmm. They must be able to participate in the online e-commerce community in some way, shape, or form. The surrounding infrastructure, such as high quality, low cost internet connectivity, the low cost of electricity and so on that was mentioned earlier, I believe that that's also very important, particularly for our small and micro businesses. There are a lot of micro businesses that have popped up due to the pandemic, right? I commend the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project of the OECS and what it's doing to help its participating countries and businesses become a part of this online world. However, I hope that this will be expanded quickly, as I believe it's limited in its scope, as it doesn't seem to cover all the member states of the OECS at this point in time. So improving the reach of a project like this would go a long way, I think, to ensuring that our little community, our region, can fully participate in the digital economy. Additionally, as it regards our technology-focused businesses, our existing financial institutions and investor community, I do not believe they're properly equipped to provide the necessary financial support for startup technology businesses like ourselves. The existing loan mechanisms, for example, are there to support brick and mortar type businesses for purchasing land or equipment and so on. And so, when we started our foray into this digital world, it was very difficult to get the kind of backing that we needed to expand our business, because the banks or the financial institutions just didn't understand the type of business that we were. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, our economies are tiny. When you compare to countries like the United States or Nigeria with 200 million people, and we become even smaller when you look at India and China with billions of people. So for technology businesses like MCA Innovations, investment is key because we need to be able to scale and we need to do so quickly. What we can't what we can't do, sorry, we can't do that without access to finance. And Dr. Donat pointed that out earlier. And I think this was part of the existing issues even before COVID. So on this point of access, I would also like to mention that I believe the launch of the Dcash wallet is a major game changer for digital commerce in the region. The unbanked population of our region are the heart and soul of our economies.
Right.
And we need to ensure that those individuals are able to utilize this technology in a way that will improve and enhance their lives. And this is for young persons, older, everyone. However, a platform like the Dcash wallet, I know that the innovators and the entrepreneurs of this region are also very keen to utilize these technologies in ways that will bring the benefits more widely and more quickly to the general population. And what I'm calling for as early as possible is access to a Dcash wallet API so that our developers and software engineers can really harness this incredible tool in ways that you or I may not even be thinking about. And I believe that's the greatest way that we can quickly turn things around in this region.
Right. Well, Ashton, we heard you very clearly. And your wish will be our command. I will say no more for now, because we want to, frankly spoken, under promise and over deliver. So I will leave that for now, but we heard you, and you'll be hearing from us. That's all I will say for now. I know about plans, so we will respond to that challenge that you've posed. I thank you for that. Thank you for that. And just to say, though, that before I go to Dr. Dennard, that even for the countries that are not officially under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Program, because regional partners like ourselves, OECS, ECTEL are involved, the benefit will spread to all members. So when we do anything in digital finance, all ECCU members benefit. Anything we do in data protection, anything we do with cybersecurity, of course, more could be done with investments from the governments or working with the World Bank or others, IDB. Well, in the OECS, IDB is not, we're not members of, so we channel normally, as Dr. Donat knows, it's channeled through the CDB, but of which all of our countries are members. But rest assured that the benefits will be coming to you as well. We are keen on a currency union-wide approach. One thing that you mentioned that I just want to touch, or you hinted at when you spoke about access to finance, and of course, Shadell would have raised it earlier. We are also at ECCB working with the IFC on a collateral registry. Again, I don't want to say a whole lot because I want the things to emerge. I want people to see and the desired impact to be had. But we recognize that this is a real problem for small businesses because what do they normally ask you for? Collateral. You have to bring security. That's the challenge. The collateral registry would allow a small business to use equipment, accounts receivables, for example, as assets which can be registered and used to securitize or secure a loan or access to credit or a line of credit, as opposed to having to bring a piece of land or to bring cash from the business when you're probably struggling for working capital and so on. So we are pursuing that as well. Again, more to come. A lot of different things moving. Obviously, I'd love them to move even faster, to be quite honest. But we are committed to addressing these issues. Because for us, to get to a 5% growth in the ECCU and to sustain that, you have to address small businesses. We're very clear on that. And as someone reminded us recently, every large business started small. Every large business started small. Let's make sure we take care of our small businesses. So thanks for that. And you heard, when it comes to resilience, you have to be digital. which reminds me of a classmate of mine who runs a store. And during the pandemic, she got a Facebook page going, which was a nice step. And I think she just needs to get Dcash now with the API that you mentioned, so the payment channel will work. Because what do we find? You go into these small businesses, and some of them don't have credit card machines, and if they have them, they can't use them regularly because the cost of using them will basically undermine the sale. They won't be able to give a discount, or the price would be higher than it otherwise would be, because they may be paying 5% for every transaction, on every transaction. That is a friction. That is a barrier to our small businesses, and we are very well aware of that. So thanks for that. Dr. Donut, what say you on this question?
Okay, no, I love the interventions by Mrs. Compton and by Mr. Fearon, and I want to add to them, right? I want to make a distinction. I mean, both of them refer to the issue of access to finance, and that's a very important thing for entrepreneurs and even for innovative businesses. But I want to make a distinction between the finance that commercial banks can provide, which usually has a lot of regulation on top, like you need collateral, you need to have a business plan. Generally, banks finance businesses whose models they know. So if you come with an innovative business plan, the bank may even have a very hard time to say, is this going to work or not? How much of our money are we going to put at risk?
Yes.
So what we see because I, have the perspective of the wider region, including Latin America, and Latin American countries, and now Jamaica has done this, have put in very distinct mechanisms to finance entrepreneurship and innovation, which are very different from commercial finances. So this is grant financing. It's done on a portfolio basis. It crowds in angel investment. It crowds in equity investment, right? And it really, what it does is that, if it's risky to run a business, let's say in Brazil, with 300 million potential consumers around you, it's even more risky in the Caribbean, where you say, okay, maybe I have a population of 100,000, and if I want to scale this up, I need to immediately go global, right? So, but how do you achieve? So you cannot maybe achieve scale if you do not go global, but to go global is quite risky. So even things that would not be considered risky in other places can be considered riskier just because of the size of the economies, right? So we are supporting I think that the Eastern Caribbean has done a lot in this direction, and we're actually supporting now the OECD Secretariat with a ecosystem of innovation type of project, which will provide grant financing to digital entrepreneurs and startups. We've done, numerous calls for proposals around the region for innovative firms that we then support. And as Mr. Fearon said, you put out a call and it's great because you cannot even imagine what you will get.
Right.
So we've supported businesses like ornamental fish, incredible, being done in low-income communities. We're supporting algas in San Lucia that turns sargassum into a biostimulant and is selling it in the US market. And I want to tell the audience that we currently have an agri-tech thinking about Mrs. Compton intervention call open. And I really stimulate everybody to apply. Okay? But what we want to see as Compete Caribbean is not Compete Caribbean, a program that has an ending time doing this, but the region's institutions actually doing this, right? And I think ECCB or ECCB Secretariat are very well poised because you have an extraordinary economic union, and this is much better done at scale when you do it, at a regional level than maybe on a country by country level. But I also want to say, related to this, there are two things in the regulatory framework that are also needed, like to enhance access to finance. And one is enforcing contracts where actually the region does not fare very well. And the other one is protecting minority investors, right? So for this whole issue of equity finance and so on, I mean, these are two aspects of the regulation that I would look at if I were in the position of the region's governments and try to improve. No, I also want to commend you for the collateral registry. I mean, we supported the collateral registry in Jamaica some years back, and we saw that from one year to another, with the credit bureau and with the collateral registry, Jamaica jumped 58 places in the doing business ranking. I mean, it was really incredible.
That's right.
So I think you guys are doing great work. But I did want to make this distinction, you know, financing for entrepreneurship and innovation, very different than financing for regular business operations.
Very, very true. Thank you for that insight. And of course, you're absolutely right. And you would know that very well from your long experience with this sector. So thank you very much. So I want to thank the panelists for responding to the questions. I think we've been having a good conversation. If you just joined us, you're listening to ECCB Digital Dialogues. Our focus today, pandemic and small businesses. And with me on the panel is Dr. Sylvia Donut, Executive Director of Compete Caribbean, Ms. Shadel Nair-Compton, CEO, Managing Director of Belmont Estate, and Mr. Ashton Ferron, CEO of MCAT Innovations. I'm Timothy Entwine, the Governor ECCB. Now, to our poll. And today we have 3 questions, so we're going to check in very quickly and see where we are in respect of the questions that are available to you. So question 1 is, how well have businesses in the region adapted to the new operating environment created by the COVID-19 pandemic? And as we can see on screen, 38% said they did okay, 31% they could have done more, 15% not very well, and another 14% said very well. So let me just repeat, how have businesses responded? 14% said very well, 43% said they did okay, 29% they could have done more, and 14% not very well. So there you have it. That's an initial feedback from those who have cast their vote in our poll. Thank you very much. Let's go to the second question, please. Question number 2. Which type of digital transformation is most important for businesses in our region to undertake? Which type of digital transformation is most important for businesses in our region to undertake? And we can see 33% said transformation of business processes, 35% said transformation of business models. For example, if you move from non-digital to digital, that's a change in your business model. 6% said transformation of domain in which you operate, and 29% said transformation of organizational culture. Well, culture is a much harder challenge, as we all know, but that's the response. So 39% said change in the business model. 28% said business processes, and 28% said organizational culture. Thank you. Question number 3, please. Question number 3. Which reform or policy measure is most needed to support SMEs during this pandemic and beyond? Which reform or policy measure is most needed to support SMEs, small, medium enterprises, during this COVID-19 pandemic and beyond? 78% of you said easing access to credit. 11% said making it easier to start a business. 6% said fiscal incentives, and 6% said more research and development. So as you can see here, almost 8 in 10 persons who have cast their vote on this question believe that we need to solve the question of access to credit, easing access to credit. Thank you very much. That's our poll for now. The poll remains open. And now I'd like us to go to a Q&A. Q&A. So this is where we hear from the audience and we take questions. We're going to roll the tape quickly for a few minutes to just highlight the persons who are supporting us via the panel, the broadcast, in terms of our partners. So can we just show our partners for a moment, please? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we will be looking at our questions and answers. Great. Welcome back. And you're listening to ECTB Digital Dialogues. Our focus today, pandemic and small businesses. We'd now like to take some questions. And so the first question we have is this. The IMF has projected that tourism in the Caribbean will not return to pre-pandemic levels before 2024. So for tourism-dependent businesses, what advice can be offered? How can we differentiate offerings and products and basically navigate this difficult period? Any feedback from our panelists, please? What do we do between now and 2024? And is there anything we can do to, I suppose, shorten that period of adjustment? Dr. Donut, I think you wanted to comment. Please do.
Yeah, no, we've been thinking and working a lot on this issue, right? Particularly at Compete Caribbean, we're supporting community-based tourism as a way of stimulating a better integration between communities and the tourists that come to the region. And I have to say, I think a lot of countries in the region, including some countries in the Eastern Caribbean, have innovated by allowing long-term stays, what in Barbados, for example, is called the welcome stamp, taking advantage of their situation as countries where COVID has been relatively well controlled. And this global need to be in a place that is COVID-free, to live a more normal life than what you would live in a crowded city like in New York or whatever, with this big risk, children not going to school, etc. And, calculations for Barbados are that the welcome stamp arrivals, and we hear that they're now going to Antigua because Antigua has a 2-year and Barbados has a 1 year, they could be equivalent to maybe push the entire amount of cruise ship visitors coming in a year, except that they stay. So they spend a lot more. They want to go out to eat. They they can substitute to an extent what, the short-term arrivals used to represent for these businesses. No? But it really relies on public policy to keep infection rates low and, these special visa formats. No? I would say, meanwhile, I think that tourism businesses need to digitalize. They need to remain visible on the internet. There are these technologies that they can adopt to maximize the revenue per visitor, which allow them to, in real time, see what their competitors are offering, what is the demand. And so you kind of maximize the price that you get from visitors. For those products that are sold at the community level, you must be able to find that product online. You must be able to book that product online, and you must be able to pay that product online. And I think to that end, Mr. Firan's technologies and others that are coming, plus the Dcash, will be incredible. Okay, what we found, because we're supporting tourism businesses across the region to digitalize, is that there's a lot of, lack of knowledge of what are the technologies that are best adapted or suited to the particular type of firm, and how to select between different technologies. And then we've been very impressed by this, but for some, even paying for hosting because of the dire straits that they're in, is not necessarily so easy, okay? But these are the things that I would say. Yeah.
Right. Thanks very much. So tapping the market for digital nomads and remote entrepreneurs clearly is an area I see. Shadel wanting to comment. Shadel, please do.
Thank you, Governor. So as a tourism-based business, we had to start, thinking outside the box and re-strategizing so that we could survive and thrive through these times. So, it's for us, for instance, we realized that we definitely had to up our digital presence and start offering products and services online. So it's one of the ways that Caribbean tourism businesses need to look at diversifying into. What can we offer to our guests? The Caribbean has so many repeat guests who come here who are very loyal and they want to stay connected to these islands. They want to still invest and to give back and to help communities and to help businesses. So we have to innovate and think of ways to keep them engaged. So for instance, for us, at Christmas, we launched a product online called My Grenada Box. And My Grenada Box was just a curated box of several traditional products that Grenadians enjoy, or Caribbean people enjoy at Christmas time. There were cakes and chocolates and spices and sea moss and a host of other goodies, sweets. And we engaged several business persons, several producers who were likewise affected by COVID, who sold to the tourist market and did not have an online presence, but welcomed the opportunity to get online and to boost their sales during that time. And our target market were guests to Grenada, Grenadian diaspora who love to come home at Christmas and couldn't come home, and our St. George's University students. And it launched and it did very well in that marketplace. We've continued it now as a quarterly subscription box. And also we are using it as a marketplace for Grenada products. So we have to, think outside of the box and try to re-strategize and see what other opportunities there are for us. Digital tours are also an option. Just marketing more to our locals. In Grenada here, we have just exploded in tours for locals. A lot of the tour operators, some of the tour operators are just now focusing on doing weekend tours, and we are really exploring our countryside, our beautiful landscapes, and going to waterfalls and unknown places that we would not have gone to if we did not have to stay at home. We also, for instance, since our main restaurant is closed most of the week, we actually invested in another restaurant. We started up a business during this time, and people would say, well, what a risky time to do that. But we started a restaurant in a town close to us, Grenville, that is full of local people doing business. And it was so very welcomed and well received and very well patronized. So we have to look for opportunities to pivot during this time and to see where the demand is and, satisfy it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shadow. A pang of nostalgia gripped me as you spoke about sea moss and other things, but I'll leave that there for now. Ashton, what do you want to say on that? Do you want to comment?
Well, I'll just say, just to add, Dr. Donat and Shadell have made, very great points. I'll just add to what they're saying. Search engine optimization. that is what we need our businesses to be able to get, to be able to be found online. So, not just getting the business online and being able to accept payments and so on, but those additional services that you need to really optimize your sites and so on. That's just one of the few things that businesses can benefit from.
Right. And I suspect your company can help them with that. So you should not be shy about no, we support Caribbean businesses here. You should not be shy about saying that. So check out MCAT, because that's very important. Once you get online, you want to be found. Thanks for that. We almost out of time, but here's a question. This has been a very stressful time for small businesses. What advice can you offer in respect of mental wellness? Any thoughts? I know it's been stressful for everyone, for you guys, especially you running businesses. What advice can you give on mental wellness? What do you do to maintain your sanity, perhaps? Is the way I could put this.
Well, Governor, I will take a stab at this one, although I am certainly no expert in that area. What do? I think that, as you know, I'm a woman of faith. And so my wellness comes from my relationship with Christ. So I spend a lot of time in prayer, and that certainly enables me to deal with the situation that I am in. However, I think it's also important to collaborate with other people, to hear what other persons are experiencing because the time where most persons are going through a downfall, most persons are going through what you're going through. And some businesses may seem that they're a big business and they're thriving. Sometimes people look at me and think that I'm doing well, and I'm telling you, this has been one of the worst times in our business, and it's very hard to hold it together. But I do know that this is only for a time, and we are going to get through this. And we're going to get through this by, grabbing hold of, our resources, of ourselves, pulling our teams together, listening to what other companies are doing research online to see what ideas there are, and just carving out a roadmap for yourself, even for those who decide to wait it out, because some companies have closed their door, or they have downscaled tremendously. Take the time to develop yourself. Take the time to do some training. Take the time to develop your business and to re-strategize for the future. And take the time to enjoy your life, to make sure you're exercising and eat healthily. And we are all living in beautiful spaces. This last Monday, my team and I went to Rainbow Falls in St. Mark's. It was like an hour and a half or 2 hour trek to hiking. And I think I was the oldest person on a hike, but I was determined to make it. And it was so beautiful. We have not done this in years. If it were not COVID times, our business would have been open on that day. But we're now closed on holidays, and we were able to do that together and go to the beach together and splash around with our kids and have fun. So take the time to enjoy your islands and become motivated and innovated by your surroundings. Taking time off is going to allow you some space to think, right? And know that this is passing and you will get through it. Keep in communication with your bank. Sometimes we decide that we are, going to, go into isolation and not communicate, but don't do that. Let your bankers know what you're going through. They will work things through for you, and eventually we will rise out of this.
Great advice. And for somebody who said they weren't an expert, that was great advice. And you know why? You live in that reality, and you articulated it so well. I think, well done. We are out of time. Do we have a final? No, I want to give the panelists a chance to give their final feedback. So whatever comes to your mind, I just want to recognize KCN TV in Anguilla, who is also partnering with us on this broadcast. Thank you very much. Somebody's asking about high-speed internet in the region. I promise you we'll come back to you on another occasion and tell you what we're doing there, because we know we have to do more there. And so we're going to do another program on small businesses. I see the questions, and some of them I think we can answer with some of the products and instruments that we are working on right now. Let me invite our panelists to give their final thoughts. Anything as we close out this important dialogue. Ashton?
Thank you, Governor. What I would like to sort of touch on, in line with what Shadell was just saying, is I think we have a culture where we struggle with communicating our ideas and our issues with the persons around us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important that, especially small businesses, entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs that are looking to get started, that they communicate their ideas and don't be afraid to share what it is that they're planning to do, because that's how even my business got started. Mm-hmm. It's, I had an idea and I couldn't do it by myself. So I started talking to other people who were, similar, who had the backgrounds that, I thought would be able to assist me. And we started collaborating. And, I think collaboration is really important for us in this region. We need to get out of the mindset that, somebody's going to steal my idea, because it's not so much someone stealing the idea, it's how well can you execute it. Nobody's going to execute your idea better than you. So, you know, that's my final thought on everything. But again, really happy to have been part of this discussion, and I'm looking forward to hearing more on what the ECCB is going to be doing in this region for us technopreneurs.
Technopreneur. There you had it, technopreneur Ashton Ferron. Thank you very much, Ashton. Dr. Donut, what would you like to say in closing?
No, I'd like to say, I mean, despite the difficulty of what we're living, right, I have a sense that the public sector, the private sector is very aligned on what needs to be done. And also, like from having spent already 8 years in the Caribbean, there's a very big sense of community, particularly in the small island states. And also, you know, it's a region that's experienced, you know, severe climate change impacts in the past and has always prevailed. So but now with COVID, because it's affecting everyone, I see a bigger sense of coming together. This panel is like a reflection of that, but I've been on many others. And I think, you know, that the region will come, despite the difficulty, there's light in the future. And, you know, it's like forced entry into like a modern and digital 21st century, but that's where we're all going. And I love the fact that measures are being taken to pull everyone together.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me just say thank you for your great work through Compete Caribbean. I'm a big fan and really grateful for what you continue to do in this very needed area of Caribbean development. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shadell, final word?
Yes, Governor. So I think that we need to utilize this time to re-strategize and to focus on sustainability and resilience. We have to reconfigure, pivot, explore collaborations, cutting measures at this time, and look at diversifying our businesses so that we can have multiple streams of income, and as much as possible, expand your business to the digital space so you don't have to be constrained by these small economies that we live in. I believe the internet has really certainly made this statement, the world is your oyster, literally true. So you should be reaping the benefits of being in the global marketplace. By taking your products and services online, you can do very well. Be frugal, be wise and strategic, and by God's grace, your business can survive and flourish through these times. Governor, thank you so much for having us on this program. We really appreciated the opportunity to share with others, and we hope that this would have been a learning experience for small business owners. And thank you so much for all that you are doing. We believe that under your leadership, we will succeed. So thank you all, and best wishes to our co-panelists.
Thank you very much, Shadell. And I take that for our team, our hardworking team at ECCB. Let me say two things as we wrap. I have been impressed by the optimism of all three of you. The two business owners, Ashton and Shadell, and Sylvia. You know, this can't be easy for you. And yet what has shown through is your optimism. And maybe that's why you have been successful in life and in business, because notwithstanding the vagaries of life, you have that deep optimism about the future. This too shall pass. This is a season. We're going to get better. We're going to get out, and you're doing things. That stuck with me. The other thing is that I find when I hang around young people, I get younger. So I have had the privilege or the pleasure of hanging around you young people for the last 90 minutes, all three of you, and I feel I'm a little younger as a consequence of that. So I thank you for that impartation of youth. And I mean that sincerely. Youth brings energy, yeah? And I always tell in the bank, you can't do anything without energy, positive energy. So you brought that energy today. So I want to thank you for that. As I conclude, let me thank again our panelists. Very grateful for what you had to share. I think it reached people, small businesses, where they are, knowing what you are going through and how you're dealing with it, also hearing what help is being provided or help that is on the way. And I think that will encourage everyone who listened. I want to thank, of course, all of our broadcast partners who joined us for this and who continue to collaborate with us on these digital dialogues. I do want to make a plug for ECCB blog, which is something we started, I believe, in February or March. And every month we put out a blog. We've done DCAT, digital transformation. We dealt with fiscal buffers. I think the next one may be the fiscal anchor. But we have interesting topics. And again, some of you have started to give feedback. So check out our ECCB blog. You can go to our Facebook page or our website. If you're interested in tracking the rollout of our vaccine programs in the ECCU, you can follow that online as well. You go to our Facebook page or website, and you will see our 8 countries from Anguilla in the north to Grenada in the south, and you will see where we are in terms of the rollout. First dose, second dose, per capita, vaccination per capita by population. So that's important because that is tied to the recovery, the reopening of tourism, the reopening of our economies. Because it's not just keeping our people safe, which is our first priority, of course, must always be, but also our visitors have to be safe if they want to come, if they're going to come. And increasingly, visitors are saying to us, we want to know that the people who are serving us are vaccinated, that they are safe, that they are protected. So I want to urge everyone, it is a personal choice, but I do strongly encourage you to consider and consent to taking the vaccine. I have myself taken my 2 doses, and I want to encourage everyone to seriously consider that for you, for your children, for your community, and for your country and currency union. We have to fight out of this, and that is a key tool in that fight. All that's left for me to do is to thank my colleagues here at the ECCB, Carissa St. Just, Janelle Brathwaite, Marlon Bristol, Alexis St. Just, Alston Crawford, and who's on the Mentimeter today? Lyndon Jackasol on the Mentimeter, and every other, of course, Dr. Emefa Suado, who's the coordinator of the dialogue and who works out of the Office of the Governor. Emefa, thank you very much indeed. And to all my colleagues, wherever you are, thank you very, very much. I am very proud of the team at ECCB. We continue to work very hard in this period, and our motivation is to serve the people of our region, to make your lives better, to make a difference. That's all this is about. So thank you very much, Team ECCB. Panelists, again, thank you. Look forward to speaking with you again. Best wishes with your business. Stay safe. God bless everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.